Yo, what's up, guys? It's Dom, and you're tuning in to Talks with Dom, where we touch on the serious topics that dives into the creator within. Over time, the goal is to help each and every one of you partaking in this transformation to better understand who and where you are on your journey. Right? So let's get it going. Right? Let's chop it up, y'all. We're on to point 16. Right? Attachment to validation. Right? Validation becomes dangerous to the creator when confirmation from the outside becomes more trusted than recognition from within, right? For creatives that's watching this video right now and truly trying to just on that journey to better understanding the creative that's within you, right? The creative that's truly driving the force of what you're inspired by, the things that you want to create, right? The person that you believe that you are, right? The number one thing that the source behind that should not be pushing is from what everybody else believes that you should be doing, or basically what the next person or like the outsource should have more confidence in the work that you should be putting out than the confidence that you have or the trust that's within yourself that you have of what and of what you should be putting out and what kind of things you should be putting out, right? Whatever art that is, right? Whatever creation that you bring to the light and you bring to the world, right? That thing should align with the person that you are, right? Your truth and everything from top to bottom is to be truth throughout your core, right? That's who you are as a creative, right? So the creator already has an internal relationship with the work, right? They know what moved them, what they discovered, what feels honest, and what they wanted to communicate, right? But then you have that creation that meets the world, that comes into the world, right? And the world responds. That's where the attachment begins, right? Seeing what that thing is, right? Relying on that thing that we call validation, right? One thing that I feel like, or that I know as a creative within myself and stuff, early on when I truly didn't understand myself as a creative, right? That validation, I feel like that was way more seek than it is now, right? Understanding myself more, right? And understanding the creative that's within me, right? It helps me to walk in the confidence of understanding that the things that I create come from the person that I am today, right? This the exact thing that I said before, right? It comes from the things that I believe is dope. It comes from the things that I think about, that the way that I see the world, right? My point of view. So we're going into the internal signal, right? Before anyone else interacts with the creation, there's already something happening inside the creator, right? There's a feeling, curiosity, perspective, right? That's the creator's initial source of direction, right? Before we let that idea out, right? It's always going to be a feeling. It's always going to be that force of curiosity, right? It's always going to be a certain perspective. It's almost like a loop just going through, right? The feeling, curiosity, perspective is going to be a loop of those things happening, right? As these ideas are formulating in our minds, right? And so understanding that before that actually meets reality itself, before that meets the physical, right? These things are here, right? These are the initial source, right? It's here with us, right? We're seeing it for ourselves, putting that together, right? The question should be, is this true to what I'm actually trying to express, right? It shouldn't be anything outside of that, right? The first thought shouldn't be something that's really thought about of the external. It should be more about what the internal has to say about the thing that we want to push out, right? There's like an example, right? A musician, making a song that aligns with who they are, right? Not needing people to form a meaning to it, right? The musician already knows the meaning. This is the purpose of why I put this out. This is the purpose behind creating it the way that I did, saying these kind of words, making this chorus for it, choosing this beat, right? Choosing this way to kind of say it, right? Painting a picture of how I painted it, right? Portraying this specific thing that I'm talking about within this song, right? That's basically the understanding of the internal signal, right? Being able to tap in with that internal before you allow the external to truly have that power to be like, this is what it should be, and then letting that lead yourself or letting that lead you, right? I'm going on to two, the external response, right? Once the creation leaves the creator, it encounters something it didn't have before, right? Other people's interpretations, right? They praise, well, it's praise, criticism, silence. There are numbers and opinions, right? So it's going to be praise, criticism, silence, numbers, and opinions, right? None of these things are like bad, being able to take these things in, right? None of these things are bad. But the problem begins when the creator starts treating the response as a measurement of the truth of the creation rather than simple information about its reception, right? So basically understanding it as receiving these things in the thoughts of other people, the way that the way that your creation should be, right? How much attention it should get or how much attention it does get rather than what it actually does when it comes out, right? These things shouldn't be taken as the model of how you should look at it every time, because now you're basing it off of what people think about this rather than what you see it as, right? Let's say it like this, right? So it's another example. Creation does not get much attention. Instead of thinking, oh, people just didn't connect with this one, right? Instead of just saying, dang, okay, so then this is what you guys think, so you're taking that in, all right, better. They didn't really connect with this one, right? This is still a dope idea. This is still a dope creation, but they didn't connect with that one, right? So instead of thinking that, you think maybe it wasn't good, or you shouldn't make stuff like that again, right? That shouldn't be the thing that you're actually making, right? Because now we're pushing away from the internal and going more towards the external, right? So that's basically pushing more towards the validation of the external, of what people think, of how people should view it, or how people want to see it, right? So now we're going into three, the transfer of authority. This is where attachment to validation gets serious, right? It's not just about validation anymore, right? You start to use it to determine what deserves to exist, right? Now we're playing a war, right? Now we're playing a game with our truth within ourselves, right? That's external. So the external becomes authority, right? The external starts to have power, right? It gains that power over the internal. It should be I create or you create and people should respond, right? Rather than people respond and it shows you what to create, right? Or that determines what you should create and how you should create it, right? Now that's kind of like that source of direction is altered. You know what I mean? When you see it as understanding how they respond, and then now you kind of like, okay, like you're hearing what they say, and now you go and create it, right? Now the direction of truth, that direction of alignment is kind of moving, because now you're not operating from what you truly feel as a true creative, right? You're just moving with that thing just because it's something that they like, right? Rather than something that you like or not, right? Going into the distortion of self, right? Once external approval becomes the compass, the creator can slowly lose contact with their own creative instincts, right? You've learned to override them, right? So it's not the fact that you like those instincts aren't there anymore, like they just die off. No, like they're still there, but the authority is not for those to take charge now, right? The external of what people think takes charge, takes the driver's seat, right? Certain ideas are rejected because of assumption. People won't understand, right? This is the example, right? Ideas come to mind and you see how that thing is, and you're like, maybe they won't understand that. I'm probably not going to do that, right? Now we're pushing away from what we truly believe in, right? Eventually, the creator isn't necessarily expressing themselves. They're expressing a version of themselves they have learned receives confirmation, right? So you want to go towards, or being able to go towards what gets the confirmation, what gets the praise, what gets the best energy rather than the thing that you really want to put forth, the thing that you really want to show, right? The honest you that you really want to put in the forefront, right? An example would be a filmmaker has a strange, unconventional concept they genuinely want to explore, but their previous conventional projects performed better. So they abandoned the strange idea before ever giving it a chance, right? You're thinking of the thing that's the truth to you, of something that you actually want to bring in, the reason that you're on this earth to create the kind of things that you create, right? You're stepping aside of that because it's something else that the crowd that you've done that the crowd actually likes, and you want to stay to that because you want to stay in the like of what the external wants, right? You're seeing how that's pushing more towards the validation of what you believe you need rather than understanding what it is that you want to create, understanding what it is that's on the inside, and finding the crowd that understands and wants that thing, right? So we're going on to the next one, returning authority to the internal, right? This doesn't mean becoming indifferent to feedback. This is not saying that you're just becoming numb to the feedback, like you shouldn't listen to this stuff. No, it's not saying that. It's just basically being able to have good judgment on how to receive that, right? And what to do with that, right? A developed creator can receive external information without surrendering internal authority, right? A question like, what can this response teach me, right? When you see this, the feedback, when you see these points of views, when you see that certain attention that's coming towards what you've created, right? The question would be like, dang, so what should this, like, how could this teach me? Like, what does this teach me right now? Right? Ways to be able to continue to push out what's true to me, what I honestly want to create and show the world, and how I can better take that thing that I want to show the world and make it even better, make it something that you know is going to feel good when you present it, right? Rather than what does this response say I'm allowed to be, right? Rather than keeping that chain around your creativity, keeping that chain around the true you, right? Being able to truly understand that the feedback can sharpen the work, right? Validation can encourage the creator. Criticism can reveal something, right, guys? But none of those things should automatically become the source of creative truth, right? That should never become the driver's seat of how you create, who the creative that you are, right? That should never become that, because that's not the truth. That's not the raw. That's not the identity that you live in, honestly, right? The creator has to remain capable of returning inward and asking, Before the world told me what this was worth, what did I know this was worth to me? Right? What was this worth to me before I let the world before I allowed the world to put worth on it, or to say what it's worth? All right, guys. So let that be something that's simmering in your mind, right? This point was over attachment to validation, right? So being able to think about that, right? Processing that as you're creating, becoming better, aligning more into that creative, right? Day to day, right? So until the next one, though, guys.